Hello, good afternoon, and happy Friday. I hope you are all doing well. If you are new here, I thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. I am your host, Leticia, and this is the Healing with Leticia podcast, Lessons from a Therapist. If you are a returning listener, welcome back. Good to have you back, and I also appreciate your time with listening. So for today's episode, this will be a bit of a continuation of the last episode about the importance with the relationship that we have with ourselves. I honestly cannot stress this enough with how important the relationship that we have with ourselves is. This affects everything and everyone around us, from our self-esteem, how you feel in relationships of all types, especially romantically, at least from my experience with the clients I've worked with and even individually, and also how you carry yourself, to even the decisions that you make daily for yourself. So this is huge. Usually what I see here is I might have a client come into therapy that is struggling with how they feel in relationships, maybe not feeling like the other person is valuing them, or they feel distant, can't create connection. And so I will start to ask questions about boundaries and how they feel about themselves overall. Do they know what to say yes to? Do they know what to say no to? Do they know, what type of people they need to be around and the type of people that they need to stay away from? Because, again, this is very much connected to boundaries, which, is a whole nother episode in itself. And, I'll probably touch on this slightly in this episode, but definitely want to continue on with, the importance of the relationship that we have with ourselves. I mean, this definitely, affects, just how you think about yourself, and as well as what you also project onto other people. If you neglect yourself, right? Like if there is no self-care, which tends to be the case a lot for people who struggle with low self-esteem, they feel just bad about themselves overall. I'll start to ask questions, about boundaries and self-care, and usually those two are not happening. So this actually gives your brain, your body, right, your soul, if you believe in that, the message that you don't matter, that you don't count, you don't take yourself into consideration. And that is a huge problem, because then you internalize that. And even if you go into a relationship that maybe really is healthy and the other person really is a loving, stable, caring person, you won't be able to see that. You won't even be able to appreciate it. It's almost like, it's right there in front of your face, but you can't even see it because you don't even give that to yourself. And in most cases, there's a lot of self-sabotage too. You might not even know how to receive that because you're not able to give it to yourself. So this is really important to pay attention to, right? How do you treat yourself? Do you have negative internal, self-talk towards yourself? Because I think I may have mentioned this maybe in our last episode, but, I have a rule for myself, and I definitely have trained myself to have to be this way. So I want you to know this didn't just happen overnight. But I don't allow myself to say negative things to myself, whether it's out loud or even internally. Even if I, do something that I am not happy about, or, an experience didn't go the way that I imagined it to be, or even if I had a reaction that, I'm not proud of in whatever way, I won't go back and beat myself up about it and, call myself names or tell myself I'm this or that, because I know that our brain is always listening and it's picking up information all of the time, whether it's out loud or internally. So this is something that is a big rule, and I hope that it would be a rule for yourself, because this also picks away at your self-esteem with how you feel about yourself. So that's something that I wanted to make sure that I touched on. And then I talked a little bit already about lack of boundaries. So knowing when to say yes and knowing when to say no is a big part of self-care for yourself. And if you don't know how to take care of yourself in these types of ways, then this leads to not feeling worthy or having a low sense of self-worth toward yourself. And this also creeps into other areas of your life, whether it's work, romantic, family life, just in general. And again, if this is how you feel about yourself, then even if another person isn't intentionally trying to hurt you, or maybe you get some constructive criticism, you might take this personally because they're picking at a wound that you already have with yourself, that you either are aware of, or it could be unconsciously that you're not even aware of it. So this is important to know. Because then, in relationships, this is why a lot of triggers start to come up. And I mean, especially romantically. And the reason why I say especially romantically is because I do believe that in romantic relationships, this is where we're most likely the most vulnerable. And a lot of the unhealed wounds, especially if you have a big core wound of not feeling good enough, that's going to resurface up to the surface real fast in a relationship. And I usually I talk about one of my mentors in the therapy world is Dr. Pat Allen, and she talks about the 4 seasons in a relationship. And if I'm remembering correctly, I think it's between the 4 to 6 month mark is when all of these unhealed wounds start to come up to the surface. And this is where you get to see, where some of the work still needs to take place. And obviously healing is not all done and, at one time and then you're done. It's a done deal. I mean, this is over time and it's a continuation. You go through life and then something else happens and then you get hurt and then, you go through that healing. And so some things take longer to heal and, other things are, less intense. And so, you might move through that quicker. But regardless, right? This is where you get to see, what are you still hurting from? And how is this affecting you with how you think about yourself, right? Like, this is really important. And excuse my throat. I think I'm maybe missing not getting sick. I almost thought I was. So sorry if I have to clear my throat every so often. Anyhow, I'm not going to get sick. So anyhow, so I'm just wanting to really just make sure that I'm emphasizing on that because, again, this is really going to lead to, how you project onto other people daily. And, you probably already have heard this, right? Many people are projecting all day long the feelings and the thoughts that they think about themselves. And so, I don't think it's fair to go out into the world and have relationships with people when you aren't the healthiest. And I'm not saying that, you have to be 100% healed in order to have stable relationships. But I would say, obviously more so than not, because if you hate yourself and you don't like yourself and you don't accept yourself, and then you're out there trying to date or having friendships for that matter, because this can also bring issues up in your friendships with not feeling, that someone likes you or, thinking that someone isn't accepting you in some type of way, but really that's being mirrored back to you. So you can look at that. What is it that I don't accept about myself? That's usually the case. So I usually, like to take a moment, take a step back and reflect on that as an individual. If something gets stirred up inside of me with a person in my life, Like, what is this showing me? What is this telling me about myself? Rather than thinking, what is this person doing to me? Why are they attacking me? Why are they a bad person, right? Because that can lead really quickly into victimhood and just thinking that the world is out to get you. And unless you're a narcissist or something, most people don't wake up every day and make a plot to, go after you and hurt you purposely. So this is why I'm saying, pretty much the experiences that we have with the people that either hurt us or, what we think someone's doing to us, usually it's either about themselves, something that they're going through that they have that's unhealed, or they're picking at a wound that you have also, right? So, it could still be both at the same time, right? Like, they have something going on and then it's triggering you. That brings up your wound. And then that's something that you can take the time to look at as an opportunity to heal. And then that goes into like shadow work and other things, which, I'm not going to get into that for this session or for this, for this episode. I'm thinking therapy, like session. But anyhow, so let's see. So I made a little bit of notes here, nothing too intense, because I definitely was overthinking before this episode, like, what am I talking about today? But yeah, I do know what I'm talking about. And let's see. So another thing that was important that I highlighted for myself to not forget to say is that, when you have unrealistic expectations for yourself, you also project that onto someone else. So think about that, right? If it is you as a listener trying to figure out like, how do I treat others? What are my expectations of them? You have to bring that back to you first. You have to ask yourself, right? Like, do I have compassion for myself when I perceive that I messed up? Can I give myself grace in the most difficult moments, that I've been through? Can I forgive myself for maybe not knowing better or, not knowing enough at that time in my life? Because lots of times people that are super critical of themselves and perfectionism and, all the stuff that really doesn't exist in this world, because there's no such thing as, being perfect. The sooner that you're able to give yourself that compassion and that love, you're able to give it to other people. So if you're struggling with that right now, it would be worth your time to have some self-reflection time and really think about, how am I showing up in my relationships? Am I nitpicking other people? Am I setting unrealistic expectations for the people? And is it because I do it to myself as well? Because most of the time, I'm like literally going to say 99.9, probably 100%, but just to be, not wrong here, because I don't want to generalize either. 99.9 of the times, it usually stems from how a person treats themselves. So this again goes back to the relationship with yourself. So, you have to really remember that the most important relationship that you're going to have is the one with yourself. Okay. Yes, I know in your childhood, the relationships that you have with your parents, that also builds attachment and things like that. But, even if you had a good experience growing up or not, we still venture off as adults and then we choose what kind of life we're going to have. And that also includes the type of relationship that we're going to have with ourselves. So you can choose to be your own bully and gaslight yourself and maybe even, run some of the old negative narratives from your childhood on autopilot, which tends to happen a lot for people if they don't know any better. And, keep feeling bad about yourself. Or you can decide to look at some of these wounds, right? If these are existing for you right now, and trying to figure out, how do I improve that? How do I strengthen the relationship within myself? Do I know what I need? Do I also know what I don't want? Because it's important to know that. And, this is going to help you to feel more comfortable just being alone with yourself too, right? Like, can you be alone with yourself? Like, do you enjoy your own company? Because in this, this day and age, right? Like, there is a lot of distractions out there. Obviously phones being probably number one right now. And then, TV, Netflix, etc., video games. It's easy to try to distract and numb out what it is that we should be taking the time to self-reflect on. And it is our own responsibility to be aware of what we need when we need it. This is why sometimes in relationships, especially romantic ones here, where, someone's not giving themselves the self-care that they need to be giving, and then they're burnt out. And then here comes the romantic relationship, right? Where you're spending time with your partner, or you need to do something with someone, and you're just feeling on edge, or you're irritable, or you're snappy, or whatever that looks like. But it's because you're not paying attention to your needs. You're not giving yourself something to recharge you in some type of way. So again, this takes time for you to have to set that time to the side, to be able to have that space alone. You can also journal about this. Usually journaling can really help a lot of people to just free write. Doesn't have to be anything structured, because I know that, a lot of my clients are overthinkers too, just like myself. And, you might sit there and think like, well, how is this supposed to look like? And where do I start? But just like anything else, just start anywhere. It doesn't have to be perfect. Again, there's no such thing as, doing anything in a perfect manner. But that might be a good way to just see what is going on with you, right? Like, why do I feel this way about myself? Meditation is another great one too, to connect with yourself. And if you're a beginner, I would probably start with like 5 to 7 minutes. You can do a guided meditation if you don't like to be in complete silence. There's also a lot of healing music frequencies out there that I like to listen to, even while I'm sleeping. You can put that on to, have some, maybe some background noise if you need that to help you during that time. But, whatever way works for you. Meditation is just great to connect with yourself, to better understand what's going on, with why you're feeling a certain way, why you're thinking about something a certain way. And, I like going on walks, and I know a lot of the people that I work with also love going on walks, and that gives you a type of meditation that is, doesn't have to be the standard, I have to lay down and close my eyes and be there for 30 minutes doing a meditation. You can also go on a walk and be in a meditative state. I also believe that when I'm working out, I'm in a meditative state, because I'm not really focused on any one thing. And so anything that comes through during that time, I really do feel it being my own intuition, because I don't have to focus on it or be anxious to think about it or to have it come up for me. So, these are just some options, but, whatever is your way to do this is all that counts, right? Like, just carving out that time and having that time to get to know yourself, especially if you're struggling with the relationship with yourself, especially if you know that you're struggling with not feeling good about yourself, having low self-esteem, neglecting your emotional needs, not understanding yourself. It is important that you schedule a date with yourself, the same way that you would with a friend, with any other loved one. You also have to consider yourself. And just the same way that, we have hygiene we need to attend to, we have mental health that we need to attend to. And this is why this is also just as important. And it should be on one of your, top 3 goals if you are struggling with how you feel about yourself. Because again, this is going to affect you in all areas of your life, especially with the romantic relationships, if you haven't already noticed. So let's see. So we're almost at 20 minutes. So I do think that I will stop here for today. Again, I have to clear my throat. I apologize. I hope I don't get sick. Fingers crossed. So thank you for tuning in today. I do hope that you are having a good week so far, and I do hope that your weekend also goes well. I think I've been ending my episodes with saying something that, and I was just realizing this. I'm like, why didn't I say this those other times? But I think I get this from Dr. Pat Allen. Again, she's one of my therapy mentors. She just doesn't know it. But, she usually says that we all need something to look forward to. We all need something to do. And we all need someone to love. which to me, love isn't just romantic, it's connection, right? Like feeling like you're spending time with people that make you feel valued, that allow you to take up space. And if you don't have these things, it would be important for you to make some time to do that. So that way you do feel like your life is more fulfilled. That's just something that I feel really works for the clients that I work with, as well as for myself. So I do hope that you make some time for that. And I look forward to having you come back for the next episode, which should be episode number 5, if I'm not mistaken here. All right. Well, I do hope that you take care, be safe, and I will connect with you all. If not next Friday, then the following Friday. I'll try to keep up with this at least on a bi-weekly basis. And I will catch you next time. All right. And we're out. Bye.